Okay, we're going into our pressing movement. So first off, we're just going to go over strict press. So the starting position and the finishing position is the same for all these three movements that we're about to hit. So your strict press, we want to have hands just outside of shoulder width. The reason for that is because we don't want to be crushing your fingers between the bar and your shoulders, especially when that bar gets heavier. So we're going to be making sure that we've got our grip on the bar to begin with. We're going to get under that bar. I want the bar resting on your shoulders. So just like your front squat, you're going to make sure your abs are tight, good foot positioning when you're ready to drive out of the rack here, and we're going to stay as upright as possible. We're going to stand that bar up. From here, it's just arms and shoulders doing the work. We want to make sure abdominals are engaged, glutes are firing, quads are flexed, driving your heels into the ground, and we want to make sure that that head moves out of the way to create a clear path for that bar to travel. So from here, I'm going to get tight, move that head out of the way, lock that bar out overhead, and bring it back down. After this, I'm going to walk back into the rack, let it hit, and then descend into that rack. So there's different breathing patterns that we'd want to use depending on the weight as it gets heavier, but essentially that's kind of a starting point, and as it gets a little heavier, things get a little bit more technical, but we can get into that later on. Okay, welcome to our push press video. Start positions, finish position is going to be the exact same as your strict press. Still going to keep that bar in that front rack position, so pulling the bar from the rack, everything stays the same. So you're going to get your grip on the bar, we're going to get underneath that bar, make sure that the bar is on your shoulders before lifting it from the rack. From here, what we want to do is we're going to do a vertical dip and drive to get that bar overhead. So now we can use those legs to help create momentum under that bar, and you should be able to push press more than you can strict press. So while you're doing this, we want to make sure that we dip straight down, drive, and lock those arms out. So essentially we're catapulting that bar off those shoulders. Once again, we want to make sure that we're moving that head out of the way so the bar has a straight path to that overhead position. So when we bring that bar back down, it lands back on those shoulders. You're going to dip, drive, lock out overhead. That overhead position, we want to make sure that we have the bar just behind the back of your head, over top of those shoulders. We want quads flexed, glutes firing, abdominals engaged, and we don't want to end up in a broken position like this. Even though it looks hot, we want to make sure that we're still staying pretty tight with this, especially when the weight gets heavier overhead. And then when we receive that bar on the shoulders, we're catching it on those shoulders, elbows high, and I'm just going to re-rack it. Okay, here's our push jerk video. Same rules apply. We want to make sure that bar is resting on your shoulders. Footwork is involved in this one, so it does make it a lot more technical. So while we're doing this, we typically teach people the footwork first, and then maybe just like an imaginary bar, PVC pipe, and then go to a barbell. Some people do find that using a barbell does give them a lot more feedback, and it makes it a little easier to learn the movement, but we always start off with just the footwork and sort of work our way up. So the idea here is we're going to get under that bar, same as before, make sure it's on the shoulders before it leaves the rack, make sure we're centered on that rack and the bar. I'm going to take my steps back. From here, vertical dip, drive, and punch under the bar. So I'll take my breath, get tight, catch that bar overhead, stand it up, feet back to neutral, and then receive the bar on the shoulders. Again. So this one, footwork is very important. As we move, we're going to be trying to get into our squat stance. So this is sometimes a big issue for a lot of people just because they're not used to it. It's basically just programming this movement so that you're going from your neutral stance or your pulling stance, which we get into later on, into your squat stance. So that's your receiving position. So it's only maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches out. You're going to dip, drive, and when you land, you're landing through those heels. We want to make sure that we're not rolling onto the balls of the feet, shooting the knees forward, and landing in a bad position to catch a good amount of weight overhead. That's it. Okay, so We're going to get Kat doing some thrusters. We're just going to teach her how to pull from the rack right now, rather than from the ground right away. We'll get into cleans later on. But for now, Kat's going to get under that bar. So just like we did for our pressing series, from here, she's going to just take that bar off the rack, take a couple steps back, and she's going to combine a front squat and a push press for the thruster. So she's going to have the bar resting on the shoulders the whole time throughout the squat, and then until she stands up, she's going to actually launch that bar off of her shoulders into that push press. So we're combining the two movements. So from here, elbows are high, she's going to get tight, she's going to descend into that squat and punch that bar overhead. So we want this to be one fluid movement. So let's go like 5 in a row, Kat. So we don't want to do a premature press with that bar. We want the bar launching off of her shoulders. So by that, maybe let's do one wrong if we can. So she's going to descend, she's going to do her squat, and then start pressing before she actually stands up. That's way too much work on the shoulders. You're not going to get that drive from the legs. So just do one where you focus on the launch and the bar coming off the shoulders. Good. So from here, what I want you to think about the next one, she'll lock it out overhead, so do one more. Focus on that drive. Good. From here, when she brings that bar down onto the shoulders, that's basically when it makes contact is when you're going to start descending into your squat. So we don't want to start descending too soon. So focus on just the contact and then descent. Good. So next up, we'll do one wrong, where she's going to start descending before that bar even touches the shoulders. So we want this to be one fluid movement, not broken. Good. That was a good wrong one. Again, so descending too soon. Oh. Good. So we don't want that to happen. So she'll do 5 more because she's not tired enough from throwing this bar overhead. So make them a little quicker. She's going to get that bar moving. This should be pretty seamless. And then after that, she's just going to bring it back onto the shoulders and walk it in. So, same rules apply for the front squat and for this push press. So it is a little bit quicker when you're cycling that bar, but elbows high in that front squat, she's descending, she's not pitching forward at all. She's driving through the heels to get up, and that bar should almost want to leave the shoulders when you hit full extension. So when she gets tall here, that bar is going to pop up a little bit, and that's when she takes advantage of that bar being weightless and just drives it overhead with those arms.